Hello, friends, and welcome to the American Mussar Weekly Gathering. Today is going to be our second week exploring the soul trait of gratitude. But first, we will begin, as we always do, with a short meditation. So I invite you to relax in your seat and close your eyes and take in a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And again, inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And as you go at your own pace of inhaling through the nose and holding, and exhaling through the mouth and holding. If thoughts should come into your mind, just observe them and let them pass, like watching a car pass by on the road. Now is not the time for solving problems. Right now, all you need to do is inhale through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema, and on the exhale, listen. Shema, listen. In Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. In Shema, we are listening with an open heart. Shema, listen. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Well, hello to Guy and Sarah and Harry and Karen. Nice to see you all. So, to begin our discussion today, I would love to know just how did gratitude show up for you in the last week? Did you try a gratitude practice at all? If you could also share something that you're kind of grateful for in the world, in your life. Who would like to begin? Toby.
Well, I have a couple things to be grateful for, and one of them is, well, they're both personal. Anyway, I adopted a kitten a while ago, about a month ago. I went to San Francisco to pick him up, and then he was sick and all this stuff. And after a month, almost to the day, he is now out all the time. He is with the other cats. I have other cats. He had
Mhm.
some kind of virus that was transmissible, and I had to keep him locked in the bedroom. It was
Mm,
a thing.
mm.
He's now out and happy and making friends
Mm.
and destroying property wherever he goes, which Greg, as a cat person or cat owner, you know what I'm talking about.
I
Anyway,
do.
I'm thrilled beyond measure that he is doing well with the other cats.
That's
And I'm trying to pay down a bunch of bills. And it seems like every time, that's the other thing I'm grateful for. Every time I seem to get ahead, I have a flood in my house, or my washing machine dies, or the roof leaks, or some other sort of thing. And I looked at my finances today, and um, they're not quite as bad as I thought they were going to be.
Mm.
So I don't know what else to say. Anyway, thank you. Thank you to all of you guys, because you guys helped me get there. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Toby.
Yeah.
Liam.
As a practice in the past week, I had gotten a new journal. I love blank journals, but this one's totally dedicated to nothing but gratitude statements.
Mm.
Some of them big and deep, and some of them really shallow, but all things that I'm grateful for. Just to put that little bit of perspective, totally noticed. I mean, last week, honestly, I was in the dumps and in a black mood and feel so much better just noticing I don't know, I mean, there's still bad things in life, of course, but just noticing it in a different light helps so much. And it's just totally 180 my attitude in the past week.
Amen. Glad to hear it. Thank you, Liam. Wendy.
Yeah, sorry. Well, have you guys ever had one of those weeks where gratitude, I think good things just keep coming and coming like just flooding. So this starts happening to me on the Saturday, keeps on going. We have a little gratitude jar we keep, and we're just writing out the little gratitude jar in there. And then at the end of the year, we're going to take it back out and read all of them.
Oh,
I was having so many things that were happening that were so amazing. I couldn't even put the notes in it because they were so fast.
wow.
So then when I went to sleep last night, I got this terrible pain in my right hand.
Hmm.
And terrible, I mean, I couldn't sleep. So I wake up this morning and I'm like, oh, I know now. If anybody says, I just can't be grateful for anything, now I know one thing to tell them, your right hand.
Hmm.
This you're looking at dirty hair. I can't even wash my hair, but I think it's going to be, it's gotten a little bit better through the day. But I mean, brush your teeth, you eat. I ate so slow. I worked the crossword puzzle with my left hand. I was so grateful for my right hand at that point. So
Hmm.
sometimes gratitude begets gratitude. And then all of a sudden, you just, you know that, hey, the littlest thing, you think it's not something I wake up and think about, but I think I'll always wake up and think about it now that I couldn't use it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Wendy. Martin, and then
Yeah,
Bell.
yeah. I'm always in awe when these great things happen. And my question, so for example, I was at my run club yesterday. One of the women I was running with, she actually lives in one of the historic homes that I give on a tour. And so coincidence. I'm at the Yom HaShoah after service dinner, and someone comes up to me and says, um, they know me, and complete stranger until she said that. So many, and this past week, three things other happened. It's just, and I'm in awe when these things happen. So the question is, when I discuss these with people, is it a coincidence or is it something other than a coincidence? Fair question. So,
Yeah.
That's the question.
yeah.
Mhm.
We
Yeah, thank you.
we tend to agree that it's fate is why this happens. But anyway, I'm always in awe of it, and I'm always grateful for when these things happen because when they can't be predicted when it's going to happen, but I'm certainly grateful when it does.
Wonderful. Thank you, Martin. Bell.
Yeah, we just had our granddaughter visit us from Indiana on spring break. She had tried to get here before, but got snowed in at one point. So she finally made it. So that was a big, wonderful time. But then there are small things each day. It's like if you wake up and your body doesn't hurt, it's like, yes,
Mm.
or a wonderful cup of coffee, or the sun is shining and you're seeing the birds. For me, it's in the very small things that I get to see and witness. Um, and then a mindset that says, I'm really looking forward to this day before I get up out of bed, that
Mm.
some things that I would like to appear happen for me. And I'll focus on, for instance, good health care.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, a recommendation will come in from a friend of some
Mm.
person that they know that leads me to another person that can handle something else. And so I'm grateful for all those connections. And I just look for the small things as well as the big things. And I love the idea of a gratitude jar. I think
Mm.
that's very interesting. You can see it fill up.
Mhm.
Thank you, Belle. And I particularly love the way you emphasize kind of recognizing the small things because it's sort of implicit in what Wendy and others have said too. We just take our right hand for granted. We can take these small things for
Yes.
granted. And when we focus on gratitude for them, suddenly we're living in a place of abundance. And that's a much nicer place to live than, the dark, gloomy world of scarcity. Sarah.
Hi. Um, I'm grateful for this group because I'm having hand surgery on my left hand on Monday and for carpal tunnel. And all of a sudden, I'm just getting kind of scared now that it's getting closer, and it's very painful, and it's been very difficult over a couple of years. But I'm just grateful for this group to bring me back to reminding me to find gratitude. Just to have a place to come and get some support. I just came from a group activity that I play. I play mahjong with a group of women, and I left and people knew I was having surgery, and not one of them said, "Good luck with your surgery." And I was like, everybody's like in their own heads and whatnot. And I thought, what is it with these people? Don't they care about me? And everybody's sort of like in their own universe. So it's nice to come here and have a place and feel like I have some kind of a spiritual community, to kind of listen and hear what other people are grateful for and what other people are going through. It's sort of like keeping it real. I want to keep it real. I don't want to just go through life, just worrying about my own thing and just kind of buzzing around. And yeah, so I'm grateful that I'm here today and for the group.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Sarah. Let's all just take a moment, maybe put up our hands to kind of offer Sarah some comfort and support and healing and for, courage and strength for the surgery ahead.
And good luck from me.
Thanks for the love.
I'll send you white light.
Thank you. I need light and love.
Oh, getting a lot of it here. Okay, so Nico, you're up next.
I'm sorry, it was a mistake.
Oh,
I didn't actually raise it. I was because I was absent. I was more here to listen and
okay.
participate. But I'm grateful for the group and for having the time to join this time and not being there for a couple of 3 weeks in a row. I was happy I could make it today and grateful to be able to join you.
Well, we're grateful you could make it today. So thank you. Michael.
I'll echo everyone's previous comments about my gratitude for this group. It's funny how important you all have become to me. And I notice it when I miss you and I'm not able to attend. But more specifically, Greg, you mentioned last week that the Modani fits to the song of "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning" and has changed the way I do that prayer every morning now. So now I'm getting up and the first thing I'm doing is singing.
Oh.
So thank you for that. It makes it much richer and a lot more focused on what it's supposed to be focused on. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Hey, Deborah, welcome. We're all just kind of checking in about things that we're grateful for, or maybe how gratitude has shown up for us in the last week. So glad you could join us. Yes, Eileen.
Um,
Or Eileen, sorry.
yeah, no problem. I was in kind of a funk too, kind of like Liam a few months ago. And I used to find a lot of comfort in writing in my journal, and I had even stopped writing in my journal, but I thought I'll do something short each day with bullet points. And one bullet point every day is a gratitude. And just again, the power of little things like the birds singing outside the window, or
Mhm.
my husband, or a connection that I made really lifts the spirit.
Mhm.
And I wanted to say one other thing. I had forgotten that I learned this, but I saw it again. One teacher I had uh, talked about when something bad happens, your response should be, "What a pleasure."
Mhm.
And the point of that being um, that it gives all of a sudden you've got a new opportunity to grow.
Mhm.
And that's kind of turning gratitude on its ear a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but occasionally I've used it and it's been helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Eileen. And I like the way you frame that as occasionally I've used it because all of these are practices which we can use when we need them. And it is, if something, some tragedy happens, we shouldn't feel pressure to say, "Oh, what a pleasure," or
Right.
"Oh,
Yeah.
great." But there are times for all of these things. And someone once told me, in a Mussar group, we were talking about this, and they had, undergone something really tough, and someone says, "Well, you should be grateful for X, Y, or Z," and
Hmm.
I was like, that was just not appropriate, and
No.
for all of these are our practices to take on ourselves, not to
Too much sugar.
advise someone else.
Right.
And it sounds like your friends shared this as a practice that you could try, and it was
Yeah.
helpful to you. So, yeah, thank you. Martin.
Speaking of tragedies, it's I found I when I come to a new tragedy, relatively speaking, I first have angst, but then I start thinking about, let's see, is there some other past tragedy that's similar to this,
Mm.
where I become grateful for the past tragedies because they say, oh, okay, so you had a tragedy similar to this. How did it work out? Worked out fine.
Mhm.
Anyway, so kind of grateful for past tragedies helps the current tragedy. So.
Yeah. That reminds me of something that Viktor Frankl wrote in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. And it was someone who was in very deep grief over the death of his wife. And he said, and there's nothing good out of this. There's no meaning I could take from it. And so he said, well, how would your wife have felt if you had died first? And he said, oh, she would have been devastated and this and that. It's like, well, maybe you can be grateful that you spared her the pain. You were spared, she was spared the pain of you dying first. So, you know, it's that can be powerful. And that might be greeted by resentment if you heard that. I don't know, but it certainly made an impression on me. Um, Anybody else, or should we go a little deeper? Right, let's take this a little further. Okay, so just a reminder that gratitude is on a spectrum and that too little can lead to, feeling down, gloomy feelings, but too much could lead to some level of complacency. Um, and our recitation phrase kind of goes to the definition of gratitude to recognize the good and give thanks. So, could someone please unmute and read this the first two bullets, please?
A good guest says, see how much this host has troubled himself for my sake. They put so much meat in front of me, so much wine, so much bread. All this effort was just for me. A bad guest says, what trouble did this host take for me? I ate just one roll, just one piece of meat. I drank just 1 cup of wine. All this effort was for his own household. Benzoma, Baruch Hot 58a.
Thank you. Thanks, Pete. Okay, so what's the lesson here? What is Benzoma illustrating? Did these people go to two different dinners, or was this the
Yeah.
same dinner?
Yeah, the contrasting impression of the same facts.
Hmm. Yes. Thank you, Susan. Nico.
Yeah, I was about to say sort of the same thing. It's not really the incident, it's your attitude towards it.
Hmm.
And I mean, incident or event, and there is a way, whatever is given to you to always think it's not enough, or whatever is given to you, you can receive it with gratitude and take it as an honor and a blessing, instead of judging the quantity or
Hmm.
everything is in the way you approach it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Liam.
A line in a book by Robert Anton Wilson that I read. I must have been in high school, so I can't remember which book. But it was reality is in your head.
Hmm.
And I think that sort of highlights that both are valid and both are true, but it's the subjective point of view of the individual.
Hmm. Yeah, Pete.
Yeah, is the first guest saying something that's a reflection on himself? I mean, that he lacks humility, and so he views as what he receiving something that he doesn't deserve.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, we could that's a very deep question, because we might say, oh, well, this is the better person, right, is grateful and is appreciative. But, maybe there's sort of a dark side to that too, I think, if I'm understanding your comment
Mhm.
correctly. Yeah. Sarah.
Well, I wrote down what you focus on grows. You can focus on the good, what you have, or you could focus, on the bad.
Mm,
I mean, it's just kind of the lens that you view the world.
yeah. Love that. Thank you. Wendy.
Well, Mussar to me is something that helps us. And I'm thinking when the second guest is going to have indigestion, because when we eat, if you're not happy while you're eating,
Mm,
your digestive tract's already messed up. So now it's just grumbling and whining and complaining, and that's never good. That's never good. Just got to find something good in there. You know what I mean? Because it says like see the good and give thanks. Well, maybe it was great wine. He had one glass of it. Maybe it was wonderful wine. Maybe it was expensive wine. Maybe the meat, something was tasty. Why not just think about that and dwell on that and be grateful for that, and just kind of write it down in your little back pocket and say, well, if I have guests, I'm going to do it the first guy's way,
mm.
and just it'll make you better. And the host tried. I mean, I'm not the greatest cook, guys, so understand.
Thank you, Wendy. Your comment reminds me of one of my father's characteristics, which is he loved movies and he would always find something good in the movie to appreciate. And that made him a terrible person for movie recommendations because he would always liked every movie, be like, "Oh yeah, this was a good movie," and then I'd be like, "Well, that was a terrible movie." He's like, "Oh, you remember in that one scene when this happened? That was kind of cool." I'm like, "Yeah, that was one scene in a 2-hour movie." So, but it's a good lesson in kind of gratitude and appreciation. Susan.
I was thinking, based on comments other people made, that we don't really know if the host was generous, but that the first guest was generous in how they saw things.
Hmm.
So, right. So it's like our perspective really can change. We can, instead of being judgmental, we can be generous in how we see people or, how all the meat out, of course, blend into each other, but that was the word that came to me. We don't know if the host is generous, but the guest was.
Yeah. It's funny that that's a great insight. And it reminds me of I had a friend who was a professional chef and he had like some pretty nice restaurants. And he told me that like I wasn't good enough friends that I ever got invited over for dinner, but he said sometimes you'd invite people for dinner and they would complain that like he just made a simple meal. And I was like, why didn't you do the whatever? And it's like that's kind of an interesting, from his perspective, like, hey, I invited you over for dinner, and you're complaining that I'm not, giving you the meal that people pay a lot of, so that's kind of, uh, I don't know, that's what it reminded me of. Uh, I want to put this quote in conversation with another quote. I'm going to put it in the chat, but if people want me to bring the slide back up, let me know. Did that come through? True gratitude derives from the force of giving, while ingratitude is spawned by the power of taking, from Rabbi Eliyahu Dessler and Strive for Truth. So what is his point? What is Rabbi Dessler's point, and how does that kind of relate to what we're talking about? And Susan's comment kind of felt like a good segue into this point as well. Yes, Harry.
Yeah. Is that is that related to expressing gratitude, or is that about the internal gratitude and how you think about something? So I think there's a difference on how I would answer that
Yeah, well,
question.
you tell me, pick one of them and tell me how you would answer.
Well,
Because
obviously
my
the
answer to your
external,
question is yes.
yes. Well, the external one is making the recipient feel good. It's a
Mhm.
So that's the positive, that's the plus. And of course, the other ingratitude remark would be to taking away to make them feel less, being disappointed that you're not happy.
Mhm.
So total different, feeling. But if you're doing this internally, in other words, I'm saying to yourself, boy, this was really a great meal and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, that's adding to your happiness, and of course, doing it the other way and saying, "Boy, this was really terrible."
Mm.
That's sort of a depressing answer. So it takes away from your any joy that you might have had, especially if you had a certain expectation coming into it, and then
Mhm.
all of a sudden being disappointed.
So what I'm hearing is expectation about what I'm think I should get.
Yes, and it's always great to exceed expectations if you
Yeah.
if you can. So I
Yeah.
guess that's sort of my answer.
Mhm. Yeah. That's a good answer, I think. And I'm grateful to you for giving that answer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments? Yeah, Wendy, and then Belle.
Well, I was just thinking, if you withhold giving and you're just looking at taking, 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 I wonder if you ever notice something that you've gotten that you can have gratitude for. It's almost like a state of mind, like Harry was saying. It's like you haven't got room,
Mm.
to have that wonderful thing come to you, or it's just a small thing like the birds or something. If you're just grumbling, complaining all the time, and you want to get something, and then when you really get it, you don't really notice it because of your state of mind. I mean, it could be anyway.
Yeah, well, it wasn't an eagle, it wasn't a toucan. It was just, a robin or whatever. So,
Oh, yeah.
Belle, and then
Yeah, it
Toby.
feels like a personality type. There are people that they focus on the bad or lack. And
Hmm.
the real, I think the real issue is judgment. You come
Hmm.
into a situation with an attitude, not of gratitude,
Hmm.
but of the judge.
Mm,
And so you ruin it for yourself. And if you express it, then it kind of takes the wind out of everybody else's sails. It's hard to be with a personality type that can only look for what isn't right or what's lacking.
yeah.
So that's my takeaway. Because yeah.
Thank you, Belle. Toby.
I read this book for a book club. I was a little reluctant to read it. It's called Give and Take by Adam Grant. It's a nonfiction book about interaction styles and how being a giver, you would think that being a giver, you'd probably end up at the bottom of the totem pole as far as own personal gain. But what he discovered through doing essentially a meta analysis of almost every study that's been done about giving and taking in a business situation, that the givers, the people who give of their time and mentor people and things like that, are the ones who end up being the most successful. It's a fascinating book. It is nonfiction, but I've been recommending it to everyone because it has to do with all of our interaction styles. How do we when we're negotiating with somebody, how do we do that as a giver, a taker, or a matcher? Anyway, it's fascinating. Just saying.
Thank you. Toby, that kind of, oh, we'll hear from Deborah first.
Um, I was just thinking, maybe not so much about this particular paragraph, but I think we also have to realize that we never really know what another person is capable of giving. I mean, I don't mean monetarily necessarily, but and I think what I try to do is just be appreciative of anything anybody gives me. I don't have very high expectations
Mm,
to begin with. And so often when somebody does something nice for me, I mean, maybe that says something about me, but I feel a lot of gratitude because it's somewhat unexpected. And yeah, I guess that's basically it.
yeah. No, I love that. Thank you, Deborah. And I guess the question I would put out, I mean, we've talked a lot, in these various stories about, well, it depends, it's about your attitude, it's about, whatever. And it's like, how much control do we have over that? How much control do we have over whether we're the person that's just focusing on what I'm getting, or the person who, wishes that the piece of meat had been bigger versus the person who was just appreciative for the invitation. Susan and then Michael.
Sorry if I'm making it too simple. It feels to me like that's the whole point of practicing Musar. That if you can have the self-awareness to say, boy, did I sound cranky,
Mm,
that you can start working on looking for the good stuff.
yeah. I love the way you say we can work on starting to look for the good stuff and we can be self-aware. Yeah, thank you. Michael.
Yeah, same thing Susan was going to say. We every day, every moment, we get to make a choice.
Mhm.
Whether we are aware of whether or not we're making that choice is another matter. I sometimes am not, probably more often than I'd like to admit. But when I'm aware, I get to make a choice, and that's what those choice points are about, right? Is making a choice. And I think at least for me, I can be grumpy and grateful at the same time. I mean, those two things are not mutually exclusive, even for me. I can be unhappy about something and still be grateful, and that's to me, that's the whole point of the thing. Is I it's great to be grateful when I'm happy, but it's more important to be grateful when I'm grumpy.
Mm. Thank you, Michael. Martin.
Picking up of what Michael just said, I totally agree with what he said about we have a choice. And I guess it's becoming aware of first that we do have a choice.
Mhm.
And then, but how we respond, we have choices, so that's my
Yeah,
only.
thank you. Hey, Dave, welcome. One of the assumptions, one of the ways that I think about choice is that we have choices, but they're not always accessible to us. And, Susan was sort of talking about awareness, like, oh, I can be aware that I'm grumpy. And that can help us get out of it. But sometimes we're just maybe stuck in the grumpiness and being aware with kind of self-compassion and not like, oh, I shouldn't be this grumpy. And why am I such a grumpy person? And that's, can pour gas on the fire. And as much as we can get out of the habit of doing that if that's how we show up. And I was real, oh my God, that was like my whole like inner world for decades of my life, decades of my adult life. And then just sort of slowly, slowly learning to be like, okay, that's where I am today. Okay, that's just where I am today. And that's, I think, also an important kind of ground zero of the Mussar practice of kind of building that foundation. It's an awareness that, we can grow, we will grow, and we won't always get it right, and that's okay. Yes, Belle. You remember to unmute, please.
Sorry. Somewhere in your book that I've read, and I've been through a Mussar class, and it was very comforting. You had said, we're human beings. This is a journey. So when I think about all the things that I am not and all the things I want to be, I know it's on a continuum, and God's not finished with me yet. And never will, I will never be perfect. So that gives me kind of like a gentle permission to be a human being. And that was very comforting in your book, that I don't have to meet that complete balance on in every soul trait. That it is a work in progress. I'm a work in progress. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's see where we're going to go next. So yeah, let's go into our breakout rooms. So, could somebody, so I'm a big Brene Brown fan, as for those of you who've been with me for a while, will know. So could someone please unmute and read these two bullets?
I'll do it.
Thanks, Harry.
Gratitude emerged from the data as an antidote to foreboding joy, waiting for the something terrible to happen as soon as the feeling of joy arise. Every participant who spoke of staying open to joy also talked about the importance of practicing gratitude. Brene Brown, Daring Greatly, page 123.
You can read the next one too.
Research participants consistently describe both joyfulness and gratitude as spiritual practices that were bound to a belief in human connectiveness and a power greater than us.
Thank you, Harry. So she's talking about this kind of thing that sometimes happens and a trap that we can fall into sometimes. And some people are particularly susceptible to this is whenever something good happens, they start waiting for the other shoe to drop. And they can almost become afraid of having too much good in their life because it's going to bring on something bad because, for whatever reason. And the practice of gratitude is one thing that they found could help get rid of this sort of worry about the future or worried about joy. So with your partner, I'll start opening I got to make the breakout rooms here. But with your partner, I just want you to talk about this, the connection between kind of joy and gratitude and how gratitude maybe can be a help to some of these sorts of feelings. Okay, so let me just take a peek at the rooms. Okay, so other rooms are open. I will stop the share. Hey everyone, welcome back. So, how were those discussions? I would love to kind of hear what you may have come up with exploring gratitude and joy and worries about the future, or perhaps other things. Who would like to share first? Yes, Harry.
Yeah, we had an interesting discussion about the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Hatov, which is the evil spirit and the good spirit,
Mm-hmm.
and how they struggle inside of us,
Yeah.
Mm.
which I'm sure you might be familiar with the story. And then the question is, well, they're struggling and they're fighting, and the question is, who wins? And
Mm.
does anybody know the answer?
The one you feed.
The one you feed.
Mm.
And one of the weapons of weaponization on the Yetzer Hara side is gratitude,
Mm.
Mm.
because that will definitely help stop the Yetzer Hara.
Mm.
And so we shared that story.
Love that story. There's actually a whole podcast called The One You Feed,
Mm.
Right.
been
Yeah.
around. And ages ago, I was a guest on the podcast because
Oh,
of the
really?
connection to
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
connection
he's
to
very
that
good.
story and the Yetzer Tov, Yetzer Hara. So
Yeah.
not a Jewish podcast, but it's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
And I think he just wrote a book,
See-
actually, the host of that podcast.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
And I think,
Oh, Harry, you just muted yourself.
I'm sorry, he asked every guest that question of who about that story. And I guess, and they had different answers.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, maybe that's how you found this group, because I know some people like,
He, no, I think I got it from the book.
okay.
Yeah.
Other thoughts? Liam, and then Wendy, and then Aileen.
I'm being chatty tonight, but we got into a discussion about nothing to do with the quote that we had actually read, but about our pets and the gratitude we can learn from them, from
Mm.
observing not only what they do, which we did cover that part, but their role in our lives, their role in leaving our lives,
Mm.
and just 101 different ways of looking at the gratitude of sharing your life with something else, whether it be a pet or a
Mm.
philosophy or anything, but that how you can look at it from multiple different angles, and find different gratitudes within it, but that sometimes those gratitudes can take a long time before you really see them, and
Mm.
then get those whoa moments where it just sort of hits you of like, oh wow, that I didn't realize I had been learning this until after the fact, until I've learned it, and it's like, oh wow, that's something I just learned from my dog. And it's, I don't know, it was a really cool conversation. I love these breakout sessions. I always get a lot out of them.
Thank you, Liam. So I have Wendy and Aileen, and that will probably take us to the end of our time today.
No, I'm not going to now.
You sure?
Well, I was just going to go bounce off. I just read this morning about the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov, and I read that when God created the good, God said, "It is good," the Yetzer Tov. Then when God created the Yetzer Hara, God said, "It is very good," and I'm like, "What?" And it said because the same thing. I think it was Susan that was talking about it being an opportunity.
Mm.
And it said because without that Yetzer Hara, then you wouldn't get married and have children and give to the poor and do all of these things. I'm
Mm.
like, well, that's something to think about. That's all I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. Elaine.
Well, first of all, both of us were members of the club that really get freaked out where something really great happens,
Mm,
thinking about what's going to then happen in the future. Because, um, but I think one thing we talked about um, was that gratitude as an antidote to that just reminds, I mean, continuous gratitude kind of is a continuous connector
mm,
to the best of life.
mm,
And so even when you're scared or you're scared something's going to happen, being able to connect to the best of life and knowing that you can always do that
mm.
um, mitigates the fear. So I think that was one thing.
Oh, that's great. It sounds like and just for clarification, is that kind of from your experience?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the scariest thing about life itself to me is being disconnected
Mm,
and in some way going through something and not having anybody to hold my hand
mm,
or to be there with me. And I think gratitude is sometimes it's abstract, but it's a connector to life.
mm. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And we will end on that note. Gratitude is a connector to life. Yeah, so let's use that to kind of lead us into our closing meditation. And I invite you to to open your jaw and to smile and to take in a nice leisurely breath and a nice leisurely exhale. Let's try to hold that smile. And with each breath, we draw in the life force of the universe. And with each exhale, we share our life force with the universe. And we can be reminded to be grateful of this connection to life all around us, and to our life. And remember that we're a part of it. When you're ready, you may open your eyes. Well, my friends, thank you so much for being here. And I am very grateful to this group. And,
Yeah.
I was thinking when we're talking about sort of counting and, I tried so many times to start like Mussar groups and Mussar workshops. And I always was like, well, if I can get this many people and I charge $10 each, I can get this amount of money. And I never no one ever signed up. And then just the spontaneous, we're going to have a free gathering because of COVID, and 30 people showed up or more. And we just kept going. And it's just been free. And I have gotten so much from that. I've gotten more than I could ever repay just from, having people here and in community together. So thank you all so much. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you. You're a great
Thank you.
leader.